For the next half hour, Chris Leonard, Equipment Product Manager at Stuller, and Eric Henriksen, Solutions Engineering Lead here at B9Creations, are going to speak on the importance of customization in the jewelry industry, emerging technologies set to disrupt traditional jewelry manufacturing, and plus you will get a sneak peek at a soon-to-be released product from Stuller. Here's the agenda for this session. Chris is going to kick it off with some information on the state of the industry. And then we'll move into industry trends, emerging solutions, and finish off with a Q&A session. All right, Chris and Eric, if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then you can go ahead and take it away from here.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. My name's Chris Leonard. I am an equipment product manager here at Stuller. Celebrating my 6th year with the company and my 1-year anniversary in the tools division. So very excited to be here. Thank y'all.
Yeah, I echo what Chris said. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Eric Henriksen. As Rachel correctly introduced me, I'm a solutions engineering lead here at B9Creations. I am also on my 6th year with our company, and actually started off as a design engineer here. So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. I'm not a jeweler, but very much into the technical side of our business. And I actually designed the Core Series printing platform that we're talking about here. So I'm quite familiar with the products that we're going to be talking about here today, and I'm excited to share some of this stuff with y'all.
All right, so wanted to just help everyone understand just kind of the landscape of the jewelry industry right now. You know, Stuller, we're very privileged to have a pulse on how things are going. We do have an entire team of folks led by Harold Dupuy, our VP of Strategic Analysis, to help folks, help our customers like yourself understand some opportunities that are out there. So with that being said, since we're talking about customization today, I just wanted to share some fun facts that we had gathered about 2021. As you know, 2020 was a really tough year for all of us. However, we were very, very pleased with the growth that our customers and Stuller and B9 experienced last year. So a couple fun facts. Total industry sales reached 115 billion, the lion's share of which, of course, was jewelry. 38 billion of those sales, or excuse me, the increase in sales was at a clip of 38 billion. So huge growth. 54% growth was the highest in recorded history. The prior record was back in 1973 at 36%. So monumental growth. Online sales, as you guys know, are steadily trending northward. Last year, it peaked at $15 billion worth. One interesting fact is how many stores are out there, right? So based on 2021 data, we know that there are 21,300 estimate jewelry stores located in the US. The interesting part about this, folks, is that the pie itself is getting bigger, right? So sales are increasing, US population is increasing, population per store is increasing. The only thing that's decreasing is the number of stores. So the competition is maybe not as fierce in terms of number of stores. The pie is getting bigger. So this is a huge opportunity for folks to gain share, especially the non-majors, right? New retail business doubled in 2021. We also expect in 2022 to have over 2.5 million weddings. So I myself am a victim of the crisis where we had to cancel weddings. So I had to reschedule mine till later this year. And I know a lot of people as well did. So it's once again, a big opportunity for folks. Most importantly, I think what kind of ties everything into this conversation is what proportion of these folks are asking for customization, particularly as it pertains to bridal. So 22% of bridal is custom. So over $3.5 billion worth. So some interesting facts there. We can move on to the next slide. So wanted to do a quick little deep dive into custom bridal. I'm sure a lot of you folks experienced this. It's very safe to say that 7, 8, maybe 9 out of 10 folks that walk into your store that are looking for bridal are going to need some sort of customization, right? So we know about 80% are asking for some sort of tweak, whether it's, size, stone shape, metal quality, etc. A little over 50% of folks are going to come in. They're going to like the style, but they want to modify that style a little bit. About 30% want something completely custom. Millennials like myself, we live on social media. We see something on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and we want that, but we want to make it completely our own. So we come into a store and say, I need you to create something completely custom, one of a kind. And like I said, a very, very small percentage are going to buy something that's in case, right? So, they like a style, they don't want to make any changes, I'll buy that. And a lot of this is driven by the couples themselves. Brides and grooms are becoming more and more a part of the conversation, right? It's not just somebody going into a store, looking under the case and saying, I'll take that, right? So once again, this creates a huge opportunity for folks. And we're so pleased to be partnering with B9 in order to make this whole process easier, right? So I wanted to share just a couple things that we have coming up between the partnership with Stuller and B9. So we can go to the next slide. For those of you who aren't familiar, we do have a software division at Stuller called Gym Vision. They make some wonderful CAD software like Matrix Gold. We also have software that's for kind of more of the novice. We have a program called CounterSketch, which is a very intuitive 3D design software. And it gives you access to over 1,400 customizable styles and manufacturing options. It's really designed for folks who may not be as sophisticated as Fernando and Patrick, but they still want to get into the custom business. What's really cool about CounterSketch is you can use it side by side with the customer. So it's a true conversion tool. And we offer it in a standard platform or a streaming platform. So regardless of what platform you need, we have it for that. Basically, we found an opportunity when we started working with B9 a year ago to where customers would come in the store, and even though they loved CounterSketch and they saw all these great ideas from different CAD designs, they wanted something tangible, right? They needed a prototype to put on their hand. And of course, that lends itself to 3D printing. So long story short, over the last several months, Stuller and B9 have worked together to create a fully integrated solution for folks that includes CounterSketch and the B9 3D printing bundle, right? So we have a quick little video that I want to share with you guys that just gives you an example of how this could be a great conversion tool for you and your business.
Creating a one-of-a-kind ring that your customer dreams about is easy with the help of CounterSketch and B9Creations. Welcome your customers into your jewelry store by having them pick and choose which ring model they like from the Ever and Ever Bridal system to see how it looks before making any alterations. When they have selected their ring, you can show them the different modifications they can make to their piece to make it even more unique to their style in CounterSketch. With the help of the freehand parts in the software and the Ever and Ever pieces, customizing their ring is simple. Allow them to change the center stone shape or size, add a halo, modify the metal quality, and more. Finish this design process by producing a realistic render of the finished piece, bringing their design to life. Thanks to B9Creations, printing a 3D resin model of this render to have your customer try on in-store takes no more than 20 minutes. You'll be able to offer your customers a resin replica of their custom-designed ring to try on, all on the same day. Finish the printing process by cleaning off any resin left behind with the B9 Clean and Cure units. Have your customer try on the finished model to ensure that everything is exactly how they imagined before sending the complete design off to the manufacturer. Give your customers an entirely unique shopping experience by putting the design process in their hands.
So I hope you guys are excited about the new integration. This integration applies to both the 550 and the XL model. We will be featuring a promotion in the next month or so. So stay tuned from any communication from B9 and or Stuller on that promotion. We're going to offer some great deals on our streaming service as well as the bundle itself. So the printer, the clean, and the cure. Couple of things to note here, guys. You don't necessarily have to send off all of your, for those of you who don't have manufacturing capabilities, they can certainly send everything to Stuller. We have a very robust CAD CAM department. However, we all know that B9 makes some incredible and castable resins. So we do know some people who will take the yellow resin, for example, and print the model. It may not take as quick as the gray, perhaps, but then again, they could take it all the way to the casting process. So, there's a lot of different opportunities for you guys, and Stuller and B9 could partner with you in any way. So stay tuned. We're really excited and hope some of y'all take advantage of this.
I really like the collaboration that's come together here in between Stuller and B9Creations. It really takes advantage of the innate kind of things that are built into additive manufacturing, the improving efficiency, the reducing of waste, but it really ties in the most important thing of all, and it's increasing the value from the customer's perspective, right? By way of giving them a better customer experience. So I think this is a fantastic kind of marriage here. And then imagine that the same piece of equipment that you're using to do this and add this new value for your customer, you can also take that into what Chris was just saying, and you can use that same piece of equipment to go into casting and do other lines of business with. It's pretty cool seeing how this unfolds, and I'm very grateful to Stuller for all the hard work that they put in aligning with us on making this a real thing. So it's fantastic. If we could go ahead and go to the next page, I'm going to talk a little bit about some industry trends. One of them being 3D printed jewelry molds. So those same efficiencies that we were talking about that you can gain through, producing a sample that your customer can have on their finger sooner so that they can get a tangible thing that they can say, oh yes, I like that, that fits well. You can get those same types of efficiencies by using the 3D printer in other places. One place is just printing castables, which Chris mentioned, which is fantastic. Another place is actually 3D printing jewelry molds, which might not be one that would be super obvious to a lot of people. If you want to go to the next slide, actually, this is a quick snapshot of what that could look like. And I'm actually going to talk through that a little bit as we watch the following slide. So if you could hit the next slide too, that would be great. So this is just a quick video that's going to show, I believe Patrick Dobbs is the designer of this mold, but this is the design process of making a 3D printed mold. First off, we're using our B9Creations resilient silicone resin to achieve this. So it's an elastomeric material, which just means that it's a stretchy, compliant, kind of rubber-like or silicone-like material for use in our printer. It has fantastic surface finish. It's got really high precision, which are all things that you need if you're going to be attacking a obstacle like this. And it is compatible with the B9 Core 5XL printers. So talking through what this may look like, from the traditional sense, stuff you guys are potentially used to dealing with is, I have to create a master. So I can either do that the very traditional way, or I could print and cast and then mold a master. And that process takes a certain amount of time, right? You have a certain amount of time for the mold to set, and then you have to demold. And that takes a specialized person that's able to, get that mold to come apart in a way that it can go back together repeatably and without imparting errors to the finished wax part when you're done with the process. If you put all this together and bundle all this together, it depends on what kind of resources you have internally, but you've got massive expenses in terms of the amount of time that it takes to do these things, as well as just the raw cost of materials. So that can put you anywhere in between, $200 to $100+ to accomplish one of these molds, and anywhere in between a couple days to a couple weeks if you have to outsource some of this work. And then you get to the point where you've gone this far and you got one design iteration, right? This thing can produce a ring that's exactly this. And I have to repeat all that work again if I want to do another one that's slightly different. So if we talk about where the 3D printing or additive manufacturing could actually, bring efficiencies to this process, it's in actually eliminating a lot of the work that you're doing. So that mold that you have to produce on the front end of the traditional process, what if we just pulled that out completely, right? That's only used because we need to take that shape and impart it into another thing. What if we could just make that other thing have that shape in it to begin with? That's the benefit of 3D printing. So we can take, as designed by Patrick or any of your CAD guys in that last video, a mold that's it's designed to be very repeatably separatable and then joinable, so that you know exactly where those parting lines are going to land. You can kind of have a higher level of control over the process than you did previously with the traditional side of things. You can 3D print out those molds. Takes maybe an hour, 30 minutes to draw up in CAD, then an hour to 3 hours to print this thing, depending on size. And then you have all those efficiencies gained from not only not doing the master thing on the front end, but then not molding and then not demolding. And you're actually gaining more by doing less. Overall cost is drastically reduced, both in terms of time and money, right? Because your material cost is reduced down to just the 3D printable resin that you're using, which generally is around $5 to $10. Your time is reduced down from days, sometimes weeks, to hours. And all that means that if you wanted to do design iterations, go for it. You've got the time to do those types of things now. There's there's all sorts of things that could be done with that extra time and money. The slide that's up on your screen now is just an example of how one customer named Oscar has implemented this within his business. He's up to printing 15 of these molds a day. He's increased his production capacity. He's lowered his MOQs. This is an example of how that could work. I think the question is, what would you do with that additional time and money and resource that you've had tied up for so long in the traditional way of doing this, that you could potentially gain back with this particular process? If you want to go ahead to the next slide, I'll talk through a little bit of the workflow of the B9 process, because that may not be familiar to some of you. I don't know if a lot of you out there are just getting started in looking at transitioning your businesses into this more 3D world, the digital world. Maybe some of you have some of this experience and this will be reviewed, but I think this is a good thing for us to potentially walk through here. It all really starts at the scan end of things. I'm going to start there simply because it is the true front. You don't have to begin there if you don't have any processes that require scanning. But Fernando did a great job of explaining a couple of use cases that you may want to consider utilizing scanning for. So from a broad sense, the scanning is just collecting existing data. And by doing that, you're eliminating the need for you to recreate existing data, right? So that's one form of waste. That's one form of increasing efficiency. The scanners will digitize and bring into a digital workflow an existing tangible item. So if you have an heirloom ring, if you had something like the gun grips that Fernando was talking about, something that would be very difficult to reproduce through traditional means, this is going to shoehorn you directly into that process and bring you right into the workflow that'll align with the rest of what we've been talking about in this meeting. The CAD and CAM would be kind of your next logical step there, right? So maybe I've digitized something that needs to be modified or that needs to be brought down the process, or maybe I'm actually just starting here, right? If I have my own novel idea, if I have my own new design, this is where I would begin. So in your CAD system, which Stuller has a fantastic portfolio of, and you should definitely check out, you're able to create those designs and digitally manufacture those shapes and view them in a virtual world before you're able to, before you have to actually produce something, right? So there's no waste caused by you having to do something and then do it again because you didn't like it, right? You can do that whole process very quickly in a virtual world and get a sense for, oh, that's the one I really like. That's the direction I want to go. You can do a little bit of this iteration without ever actually having to have a tangible thing. Transitioning over into the CAM, that's what we call the software that runs our printer. So it essentially takes the information, the digital information that was either created from a scanner and maybe manipulated through different softwares like our Leos software, or maybe you brought it all the way into CAD and you know, made modifications that way. The CAM takes that information and translates it into something that the printer understands. Now, the printer is just a way of making stuff, no different than, you know, a mill or some of the more traditional tools that you're used to using. There are ways to optimize the way that the printer is working. So the CAM will guide you through, for example, orienting a ring in a certain way so that it will optimally function on the printer and the printer will be able to produce it. There are ways to do it wrong, but there are also ways to do it very right. And we've taken steps to kind of guide you through that process as far as here's what that would look like, you know, for a general user, and just get you over that learning curve of I have no idea what this is or how it works to a successful thing as quickly as possible. Excuse me. Next up would be talking about your resin. So this is actually the material that we put into our 3D printers. Our 3D printers use light actually to synthesize these parts, which sounds super sci-fi. It's actually not. It's actually not very technical at all. It's the same type of technology that's built into like ultraviolet curable glues and things like this. So the material for us starts off in a liquid form. So you would purchase it in a bottle, you would pour it into the vat, which is essentially just the container that holds the liquid that is installed into the printer. Based upon what resin you choose, you're going to be able to do different things with that, right? So if you take our B9 gray resin, that's going to be best suited for doing your counter sketch integration stuff, where if you want to you know, show a customer a prototype ring and have it on their finger within 20 minutes. You're going to want to use a fast material that has really good surface finish, but prints very quickly and conveys a thought or idea in a physical form, you know, within a matter of minutes. If you want to go through a casting process, you'll want to use one of our castable materials like our yellow or our emerald, which print a little bit slower, but you're also able to modify other things like how smooth that finish turns out so that you have less post-processing work on the back end after you've done your castings. There's also like the silicone material that we talked about with the mold making. So this is where you kind of choose your application, and go forward from that into actually making the part. So next up comes the 3D printer, the thing that's kind of tends to be the star of the show. It's the hardware that turns all this stuff into a real thing, right? So as I mentioned before, you take this liquid material, you put it in the printer, and you get an output of a physical object. And we do this by basically exposing light into this photosensitive material and creating a form, a solid form out of a liquid. We do this layer by layer in very, very small increments until you have a full scale component. You then take that component, which comes out of the printer, covered in a residual liquid, and you bring it into our post-processing step. Now we have two devices that do this: the clean device, B9 Clean, and the cure device. So what I'll say about those is that the clean device takes the object already on the build table. You just put it into a cleaner, you hit a little button, and you walk away, and you basically forget about it. Now, all that's happening in this step is that liquid residual material is getting removed from the part that you actually want, right? It's making it so that the first time you touch this part, you're not all sticky. It's not a colossal mess. It's going to be a dry and clean component. After we come out of this step, you're going to go into a post-curing oven. And this is generally where we get our end use properties out of materials like silicone or castables. It's an important step for stuff like that. The printer does cure the material, but only to the point that it holds its shape. In order to get it to that end, oh yeah, this is a thing I can touch, feel, put on my finger, check out. You got to go through the light cure oven, and the steps that I just mentioned, the clean cure, are variable depending on which resin you chose earlier in the process. So hopefully that kind of gave you a quick overview. Obviously, after all of this, you're either going to go into cast, or you're going to go into making your molds. You could go straight from this to, here, customer, here's the thing that you can check out, your own custom design. Tell me, put that on your finger. Tell me how that feels to you. Hopefully that's given you guys some sort of an idea of how this looks, and kind of started getting some gears turning as far as how could I potentially integrate this into what I do.
All right, thanks. Good to see y'all again. I just want to quickly touch base on a great opportunity to learn a lot more from B9 and Stuller about all of your different options to improve your business. For those of you who aren't familiar, every year, with the exception of the COVID year, we host our bench jeweler workshop right here in Lafayette, Louisiana. Essentially, this is a huge opportunity for folks to come out here, see all the new equipment, network with fellow bench jewelers and business owners, but more importantly, get some really good education on topics just like this. We're very excited this year to have a lot of the B9 staff with us, and many of them are actually going to be involved in our classroom setting. So you're going to learn all about Stuller software, from Matrix Gold to Countersketch and everything in between. You're also going to learn how to properly segue between your CAD work and 3D printing. And then B9 is going to take over and give you a full tutorial on how to utilize their printing solutions, as well as the scanner. So more importantly, it's just a great opportunity to meet face-to-face. Registration is open, so please visit stuller.com/workshop, and we hope to see you in a few weeks.
All right, and before we wrap up the session, I just wanted to mention that B9Creations, along with Stuller, will be at the Atlanta Jewelry Show and the MJSA Expo in March, and at JCK Las Vegas in June. You can see our booth numbers there on the slide. Chris, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
No, we will have some representation from B9 in the Stuller booth. So, you can get expert advice right there in the Stuller booth as well.
All right, and then we are going to go ahead and kick off the Q&A for this session. Our first question here is for you, Chris. Are you able to 3D print directly from CounterSketch?
So it does require one manual movement. That's literally taking a USB flash drive and taking that and plugging it directly into the to the B9 printer, and you're good to go.
All right, and Eric, this one will be for you. Any hope or timeline for the silicone resin being able to be used on the Core 550?
Potentially, yes. So there's things that we're always trying to work on. One of them is a core value for us is bringing customers along with us, right? So if you've already purchased a 550, then you remaining successful and remaining, I guess, in touch with the new things that we're coming out with is absolutely a desire of ours. Whether or not that specific thing will be answered in that specific way, I can't tell you that right now. But what I can tell you is, if you are looking to do those types of applications, get in touch with us and let us know, and let us start a conversation with you about what that could potentially look like for your situation. And I think we will be able to meet, some sort of a happy compromise, whether that's answering it the way that you asked the question or answering it in a slightly different way.
All right, thank you, Eric. I believe we have one more question for you, Chris. Is there a tutorial on using Matrix and the B9 printer to make molds? What material do I order to make the molds?
So I can answer the material question for sure. It's the resilient silicone that can be found on Stuller.com. In terms of tutorials, I don't think there's anything live at the moment, but that is certainly part of what we're doing in terms of laying the foundation for this integration. So I would say stay tuned, and both companies will certainly announce when that is available. However, we do have resources here in-house with our CAD CAM support team, and then the folks at B9 are the best at providing support. So maybe there's not a tutorial that you can learn on your own, but you can certainly contact either company and we'll be more than happy to help you out. And then I just saw that there's a white paper from Patrick. Yeah. So that's probably the best info you're going to get to right there.
Awesome, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are just going to roll straight into our open forum Q&A. So all panelists, if you guys want to show your faces and unmute yourself, we're going to go ahead and take general questions. If any of the audience has anything general, it does not need to be in regard to the sessions today, just anything about digital jewelry, and we will go ahead and ask our panelists.
Well, I'll start. I think one of the most important things is really, start, because I did start on the bench and started doing things the very primitive way up until where we're doing things now. I think it's important when you look at these things and look at cost and look at integrations with Stuller. I myself have CounterSketch for my retail business. Is these things are really big investments. These are things that you will put the money up, but it's part of investing in yourself. I can speak for what's brought me to success with our customers is people are always excited because we keep moving forward. We have new innovations. We're moving up with the times. So although these the scanner may be expensive or have a price point to it, I know Stuller works really well with their customers. They've worked well with me for years. There are ways to help you get into investing in your company, and you have the support. I mean, I've been working with B9Creations for, I don't know, almost 7 years now. And, they are very good. Like Eric says, they really want, they want to bring you along, to become successful. So does Stuller. They have great reps that are going to be there. I've been to the Bridge events in the past, and those really help me understand, like, hey, they have a good scrap program, right? You turn your scrap and you can roll that into an account credit, as an example, right? They can help customers help remove some of those barriers to entry into a $5,000 piece of equipment, a $6,000 piece of equipment. So that's the one thing for me as a retail business owner and as a jewelry manufacturer. The key to success is, one, the ability to want to adapt, but two, taking help from Stuller, taking help from B9C, taking help from other people, Patrick, myself included. And we're all here to help. And I think when you look at those stats that Stuller was bringing up, they're very, very impressive. And there's definitely enough business to go around. The industry as a whole is huge, but the people that are in it, is very, very small, right? So a lot of us know each other. So I think let's leverage this technology. Let's leverage programs that either Stuller may have available for getting into these type of softwares and into these solutions. Let's leverage B9's support and ability to want to move products forward. And then let's support these types of summits and events where people hop on for the better of everyone in the industry. So that's what I would like to add.
Fernando, this is Chris. Thank you so much for the kind words. We really appreciate it. One thing I wanted to add is because we do feel very strongly that it is a true investment in your business and it will give you a return. For those of you who are a little hesitant, you want to try things out, go on to Stuller.com. You can do a free 2-week trial on CounterSketch. So get acclimated with that. Come see us at some of the regional trade shows. If you can make it down to Lafayette, great. Get your hands on all this. So there's a lot of opportunity to get your hands on this stuff and try it out before you buy it. So that when you make the investment, you've done your homework, right? So just something I wanted to add there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. And we do have a question here for Patrick or Fernando, either one of you. When rotating a model to minimize required supports, is there a minimum angle from horizontal you need to apply for a successful print?
Well, I'll add. I think a lot of this stuff happens before you even get to the printer. So I'll answer it in two forms. One, if you are the designer, then you should be thinking of how you're going to execute that, right? Whether it's going to be, again, just speaking in generalities, right? Like whether it's a mill or whether it's, this type of machine or another type of machine. So I'm a big proponent of designing for how you want that outcome to be. It'll make all those questions, far less when you actually get to printing it. So I have a similar design style to Patrick, where I do like to round things off a little bit, fillet things a little bit. The Achilles heel to any type of printer, whether it's SLA, DLP, is going to be a flat planar surface, something that's planar to the actual build platform. So that being said, since so much of this jewelry is bridal, I like to really just kind of round out the very bottom parts of the halo. It allows for a very, very clean support structure, and it helps utilize the Z-axis of the core series machines. Now, if you did have something that did have a lot more, curves to it, what I would do is just get a simple design, and I would start off and print it vertically, and then print it 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 20 degrees, and then just use that as like a master, right? From there, you will gauge, roughly down the road, if you get another model that's similar to this, what degree may be best. Now, of course, your results are going to vary based upon the geometry, if it's a squared profile or a rounded profile. If it's something that doesn't have too much a severe curve, maybe 5 degrees to 15 degrees is really all that it's going to need. However, it's going to be up to the user to figure out what's going to be acceptable for what they want and minimize supports. Patrick?
A lot of it starts on the sales floor. When you're selling the piece and you've got a customer that wants something with diamonds 3/4 of the way around, that's going to be hard to support, So a lot of that can be eliminated by dealing with the customer's expectations, of what can and can't be done, So it kind of starts there. And then, from there, you have to strategically plan on the design. Like I said, you have to plan ahead. You have to figure out which is going to be the best way to do it as you're designing it. And you may, customer may want a whole bunch of stuff with like filigree with a whole bunch of downward pointed angles. You can always suggest, well, let's turn the filigree so that it's the other way, so we don't have to add so much support. I mean, it's all about strategy, and it's all about, you're doing this to make money. So eliminating labor is the best way to to stay profitable, and that all comes from strategy from the very beginning. And like Fernando said, it's always good too, once you've got to the point where we're gonna print it, the design's finalized and you're gonna print it, you can always put them in the software at different angles and do one at one angle, one at another, one at another, and one at another, to ensure that you're gonna get a good print. There, especially with the 405, there's so much area that you have to print on. You can do 5 different models and try to find which is best. And then from there, you're learning, the best way, the best angles, the best approach, and the best strategy on each individual thing. So that's what I would suggest is just try everything. You got plenty of build platform to experiment with, and try. That's how you're going to learn. So,
and with the cost of resins being so cheap, it's funny, in my retail store, that was always my method, right? Going back to like the very first machines, is I would print, quite a few of them. Obviously the ones that really failed, those go in the trash, but a lot of them looked okay. So those became showcase material, So
sure.
It's always one of those things where that's what we have, we have so many pictures of before and afters. Is the cost of printing is so inexpensive. Print an extra couple. It honestly does not matter. So I think it's one of those things where, it's part of my passion for this stuff is it's so inexpensive to learn those things once you're there. So I encourage everyone, even when it's going to come out, print an extra couple, right? And a funny thing, when I was training my CAD team, is all of the failures that we had, everybody on their desks has a board, right? So it's just a reminder of, oh, if this one failed because of whatever, right? Whether it was a support issue or they forgot to cap a surface or what have you. But it's just so inexpensive to run. Why not just print an extra couple? Might as well.
And you have time on the machine as well. Your average, like my average print time is like 2 hours, maybe 2.5, and that's at a high resolution. So you've got time during the day to figure out what's best for you, print it. If it doesn't turn out exactly right, print it again. You got time before you got to go home.
Yeah. Plus, it's not like the old machines where every time you added a ring to an old Solidscape, it added an extra 7 hours, right?
Right.
So the course series, it doesn't matter what you're going to print 1 or 15 at the same time. So might as well just learn off of that.
Maybe tag on to the end here. What you guys are talking about in terms of like design for manufacturability is nothing new, right? It's stuff that everybody who ever has made a thing has had to consider. And if you think back to, how are we doing this in casting as well? Well, I had to either mill something and figure out how to hold it without damaging it, or I had to think about casting it, and I got to put a sprue somewhere, or else I'm not going to be casting this thing. So it's the same types of thoughts that are going through. It's just with a different method of kind of getting there, I think.
All right, and the next question, any of you guys can speak on this one. What seems to be the most popular design software? Is it Rhino, Panther, Matrix Gold, something else?
I've been using CAD for a long time, and Matrix has always turned out a really good product. And those of y'all that know me know that I worked for Jeff High for a while, and he was the creator of Matrix and the founder of Jim Vision. So I'm of course very, in my opinion, Matrix is a fantastic software. It was expensive back in the day. Of course, there's new, Matrix has evolved into Matrix Gold, which is it's a different product. It's considerably different than Matrix. In some ways it's better. In some ways, to me, it lacks some of the control that I want to have, but it's probably a much better program for people that are starting out and learning. All of us, and I see a whole bunch of the guys in the comments that I know were trying to learn Matrix back in the day, and it was hard, trying to understand what was going on with that program was a real issue. And but you doing it that way, you learn to do exactly what you wanted to make. You could make, you're literally drawing exactly what you want. So you don't have to settle. So, with Matrix Gold, there's like I said, there's pros and cons, and a lot of people like it. And there's, I'm sure there's, people that don't like it, but what you have to do is find what fits you. I know a lot of guys that just use Rhino and can really turn out great models. I've seen counter sketch. I've seen people be able to do stuff with counter sketch that, from my standpoint and the way that I model, I'm baffled by what, great models people can turn out that way. So I think from that standpoint, there's always something that fits everyone. Kent did a great job yesterday showing Panther, and to me that's an exciting alternative to Matrix and Rhino. So, but it's about what, finding what fits. There's no car out there that everyone's just going to say, yep, that's the perfect car. You got to find what fits. And Matrix Gold, of course, is a great alternative. There's to what Matrix used to be. A lot of people are using it. A lot of people are doing fantastic models and stuff with it. So
I'll chime in on that. I think on that approach, it's one of those things where these are all just different tools, right? And you have to have a different skill set to utilize a different tool. So when you go to qualify somebody, or you're looking to qualify a product, my biggest question is, do you have any type of computer background, period, right? If there's anybody that did anything drafting or SolidWorks or anything that had, that was very robust, they can pretty much pick up a lot of these different softwares. I myself use, we have Counter Sketch at the retail store, and we use Matrix 9 here in the office. So I'd say if you were like a brand new user, and you're ready and you're committed to doing some design work, I think you really have two routes. One is going to be Matrix Gold. I think what they've done is they've utilized a lot of these simple tools where Patrick and I could surface model stuff, and we'd do a lot of lofting and surface modeling. There could be an easier approach to a newer generation if they had like zero experience, right? So I think that's a great route. I think if you're on the retail side, I think Counter Sketch is great. It gives you the idea where you can push and pull things around a little bit, because if you have no experience, you're not going to know like a minimum depths or height above prong, or how thick a sidewall should be for 4-pointers that are channel set, right? So I think if you want to get like your fastest return in a retail environment, I think Counter Sketch is a phenomenal tool. If you are going to get into the back end, more designing part of it, and you're new, Rhino Gold is very appealing. I didn't see Kent's review on Panther yesterday, so I can't really talk on that part. And then really Matrix 9 and so forth is really just for the people that have been the early adopters and have kind of grown with it. So I think the first question to whoever asked that question is, what are you looking to get out of the software, and where are you going? If you're in retail, you have the Counter Sketch option. If you're going to get into design for manufacturing, even a regular Rhino may be a good option, where you can really understand curves and surfaces and utilize those. And then later you can upgrade to different softwares. Now I know, again, I talk about Stuller. They've been great and helped me out for the last 18 years. They also do have really good programs also, right? Chris, you can probably speak on this, where, like you said, they can try out a software, or they can try it out. If they like it, great. I'm sure that they wouldn't have a problem where if you do try out, whether it's matrix gold and maybe it's not a fit, they can probably, make a lateral move over to a different software that would be a better fit. So I think it just comes down to what part of the business are you in? And then once you finalize that, then you can see what options are best for that particular, vertical of the business.
A great point. And thank you, Fernando. And thanks for everybody for their feedback. We really appreciate it. A couple things to note. Our CAD CAM director is actually chatting right now. We're obviously taking feedback constantly and making improvements. So in the next few weeks and months, we are going to give more control to the user. I'm going to introduce parametric design, which will be fascinating. In terms of finding what fits best for you, a couple different options. There's online training and online webinars for all of the software that we offer at Gym Vision. We have in-house trainings as well, but more importantly, contact an associate and explain exactly what Fernando just mentioned. What's your skill level? And most importantly, what's your end goal? And then we can find something that works for you. So a lot of different options, but well said, Fernando.
Thanks.
Do any of you utilize milling as often as you do the 3D printing process, if at all?
I still have a few Revo 540Bs actually. You know what? I've been using it less and less, and we probably haven't used it in probably about 6 months. And I'll tell you why that is. I think with the new softwares and the new like smoothing tools, as B9 has developed and really kind of closed that gap of, oh, there's printing lines, right? Like it's gotten to the point where that Z-axis is like, it's phenomenal, right? So a lot of the pieces that we used to use for that, now they just occupy so much time for milling that you're gonna have to give it a rough cut, then go through with a radial cutter or an axial cutter. It's so labor intensive now. And I think, as I've always said, again, I'm a tools guy, right? So I want to have these tools and I won't get rid of them. But if I'm honest, I'm so impressed with the ability for that slicing software and the smooth tools to have advanced so much that now we don't use it for the things we used to. Simple example is coin relief objects, right? Things that are double-sided. That was like my go-to for milling. It's an easy auto flip and it worked very well. We just printed some coins off of our 550, and those things are so the vertical is just so smooth. There's really no need for that anymore. Again, still keep your tools. That's all these are. These are just tools, right? But I've actually been very impressed with, again, same machine. I still have my very first, prototypes of the core series in action, and I haven't had to change anything, just software updates, right? and it's gotten better and better. So I don't think I'll fire it up at all, but it'll still have a place here in the shop.
And this one can go to Patrick or Fernando, either one of you guys. Do you have a preferred technique for supporting eternity bands as one piece?
All depends on geometry of the eternity band, really. It depends on how it's set. If it's a channel set band, you're going to have an overhang that you have to deal with. If it's me personally, I would probably try to do like an eternity band using like a bright cut type method. You can do that without having quite as many supports, so it's going to depend on the geometry of the design and how that's done. Fernando?
Well, I love doing eternity bands on these printers, for the simple fact that, one, it's very difficult, again, like just how we were talking earlier about, you want to design for your printer, right? Or for how you're going to do that. Well, I print for the next stage, which is casting. I mean, we cast in all golds and platinum daily. And the worst thing is when you get a very fragile eternity band. Now my wax guy says, how am I going to screw this thing up, right? So I actually take a different approach when it comes to doing the eternity bands. I basically, if you can just kind of picture this for the CAD guys out there, just a circle in the center, right? Let's just say it's the standard size 7, 4mm diameter, extrude it. And then from there, I'll design the sprues for it. Now, on the, if it's vertical, as if it were just going to be, needing supports, I've done basically like a little half moon, and then use that to then create these small support structures. Now, because we think about that in the very beginning or the design stage, we do design everything with a draft angle, and that draft angle is going to enable you to have a stronger contact patch as the material, as the layers continue to print upward. So the answer to your question is I design a star spoke, maybe as an example, a 5-spoke or 7-spoke internal sprue design. And then from there, because we design with a draft angle, I usually use 1/4 mil or 0.35 mil light supports just on those prongs. And with the core series being so stable, it really doesn't need a lot of supports how it used to in the earlier version. So again, it just goes back to, I get more impressed because I don't physically have to do anything. I just do updates. The software has, improves the printer's ability to maintain its rigidity or its strength under tension as it prints more fragile objects. So before they were difficult to print, you may have some drooping here or there, but my end goal is I want to print it. It should be exactly what's on my screen. From there, go straight to casting. The casting should be exactly how the resin model is, which it is, without having to physically touch up too many things. So, so yeah, if you can picture that, that should give you point you in the right direction as to how to get a proper print. And by default, you're gaining the sprue system as well.
And Chris, this last question is for you. Does CounterSketch auto support your files before printing?
So my understanding is that the B9 software will auto support before printing.
Yeah, I can chime in there. So through the integration that lands you in that end part where Chris was talking about earlier, where you just take a USB drive and go plug it into the printer. Yes, the software auto supports. So within CounterSketch, you make your design, you hit the little print button, and then behind the scenes, the supporting, the layout, all that actually happens for you. And after you hit print, a little file spits out onto your computer that you put on a USB drive and take over to printer. That's how that looks.
All right, and that is the end of our open forum Q&A. If anyone in the audience would like to learn more about how high-resolution 3D printing fits into your business, or more about B9Creations digital jewelry solutions specifically, please visit b9c.com/jewelry. On our website, you can also request a 3D printed sample, schedule a demo, or book time with one of our experts to learn more. And before we end, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of today's panelists. And again, thank you to everyone who decided to join us. This event was a lot of fun for us to put together, and we just appreciate every single one of you who took part in it.